green sheet background, and it's tricky.
All
It's
right, everybody mute. We gotta go. Hello, everybody. I want everyone to tune in on hello, everybody. So, hello, everybody. My name is Timothy Gager, and this is Virtual Fridays Diary Literary Series. And welcome to our autumn season, and we're back to weekly, which is great. So we're gonna start our time with a really strong poet, and I thought I had everything prepared. So give me a second, which I'm really looking forward to her work. She has a new book which just came out, and let me tell you a little bit of something about DeMisty. And what is really good about this is you guys can read at home. There she is. Ta-da! And she is my Massachusetts sister in Central Mass. So besides writing, DeMisty Bellinger is poetry editor at Malarkey Books, an alumni reader at Prairie Schooner, and a professor at Fitchburg State University. She has a BA in English from University of Wisconsin-Platteville, an MFA from Southampton College, and a PhD from the University of Nebraska. She is an alum of Loaf and Marge Piercy's intensive writing workshop. Wow, those are all such great names and places. And she also attended the Vermont Studio Center on a fellowship, and she lives in Central Mass with her husband and her twin daughters. So from here on in, let's turn it over to DeMisty Bellinger.
Hello, hello, am I unmuted? I am unmuted.
You are good, but I can't hear you right now. Did we just lose her? That's a first. That's good. We just lost her. She's coming back in. So that was not my fault. Just, don't blame the host.
It was totally my fault. I as usual, I have 1,000 tabs open, so it's completely my fault.
I have 1,000,000 Diet Cokes open.
Okay.
All right, DeMisty. Looking forward to hearing you. So let's roll.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Timothy, and I apologize for that. I'm going to hold up a cover of my new book, which is Peculiar Heritage, and that just came out last month. And I am going to read a few poems from that, and if I have time, I am going to read some poems from Rubbing Elbows, which is a chapbook. And the first poem I'm going to read is called A Peculiar Heritage, and you can kind of get an idea of where these poems came from. After Donald Trump was elected president, I don't know how you guys reacted. I used to apologize for my politics being different from people who supported Trump, but I don't apologize anymore. I was pretty pissed off. And for a while, I couldn't write at all. And when I started writing again, I started with neo-slave poetry. And that's the first part of this book. This book is divided into 4 sections. And I thought when he was elected, at first I was stunned for about a minute. Then I thought, well, this is kind of what our country built. It should not be shocking to any of us. And the first poem is called Peculiar Heritage. It's in 2 parts. 1, if you look at her eyes straight on after you've taken from her every one that she's thought to love, and you see the whites glisten and the browns grow big, and she appears plaintive. She appears hurt, but not depleted. Do remember that heifers and sows and ewes too will give such eyes, but soon resolve like the negress to forget. You could just not look at her eyes. 2, if you look at her eyes and forget the other livestock on your farm, does it make it easier to take her where your wife won't see? If you see her as livestock, would that make it harder to take her? If she is nothing more than a dam, then what she dams also comes from you. What is it that comes from you? And I hardly ever read that poem aloud because it's a difficult poem to read. The second poem I'm going to read is from a cycle of poems, and it's based on the lunar cycle, and it's about a woman who is escaping slavery by the light of the moon, or the lack of the light of the moon. And there's a few poems in this. I'm just going to read Waning Gibbous. I've never said the word Gibbous out loud, and I don't know if I pronounced it right because I'm one of those early readers who don't know how to say words. So, all right. Waning Gibbous. Looks like a face turning slightly away from me as I'm still looking, still trying to figure out if this is a friend or if this is a foe or if this is nobody at all to be concerned with. And I can reach out my arm, my hand to touch her elbow, just the inner part where the skin is often described as soft as tissue paper. But I know the skin there is softer than that. I know the skin there is as secret as words not even whispered. Words only breathe in the darkest of nights under a sky full of stars to nobody at all. Looks like a lie that was told to me when I was on the edge of dreaming, when I was young, when I was in the arms of someone I love and trusted but accepted. The lie and learned it while eyes flutter against the weights of sleep, the difference between a lie and fib and story. Those who lie, I learn, may love me. Those who fib, I learn, are trying to trick me. And those who tell stories are nobody at all. So this next poem, thank you. This next poem is kind of an anti-capitalist poem, and it's based on a photographer's work. It's called Windsor Knot. So this is not a slave poem at all. I'm out of that era. This is a different section of the book. Windsor Knot. Remember the scene in Gatsby, Daisy selling shirts through the room space? I felt stuffy reading that novel when placed in Gatsby's Long Island mansion. Imagine instead waters outside, calm ripples, ties denoting masculinity, colors and patterns denoting what is man-made, rigidity of Western men, dampened, wetted, doused. Imagine instead a baptism in money, capitalism mistaken for love, economy of care, a wealth of undrinkable water, a sea of tightened ties. So I am going to read Sewing Season, which is a poem I wrote in Marge Piercy's workshop when she was trying to get us to work with sounds. And my mother was visiting. My hair was a mess and my mother braided my hair because she always wanted to go to Cape Cod. So this is called Sewing Season. My mother's fingers thrip through my coarse hair, 1/2/3, 1/2/3, thousands of ring circlets circling each other, thrip, thousands of times, braiding histories of the woman before her into my hair. My mother parts furrows onto the scalp beneath the mound of my woolly hair, scratching scree, charting rows of rows crossed by the woman before her into my hair. My mother's fingers recall lineage of designs, cross continents, cross ideas, cross corn rows, thrip, plaiting Africa into my hair. So I have a minute left. I'm gonna read this last poem, and it's called Misterioso. And it's from the book Rubbing Elbows, which is a book that's mostly about musicians, but about celebrity personalities, either persona, not really persona, but poems about them. And Misterioso is a song that was written by Thelonious Monk, who's a jazz musician. Monk's goatee pointed somewhere over my shoulder, and I turned and looked where it was directing me and saw floating in the cafe half tones and tritones and seconds bleeding through the air. I didn't think they looked like that. I'd imagine music to look as it is, notated, fat balls with erect tails. But music is fuller and amorphous and polychromatic. The word synesthesia came to mind. I couldn't hear the music Monk played anymore, just the aftertones, notes not found in a single piano key, but resounding in a case and against a harp. I couldn't concentrate anymore. I followed the sound to an altar covered in purple and lavender and black, knelt on a prayer bench covered in red velvet, and to hear clearer, took a vow of silence. Thank you. Hey, Stephanie.
Thank you so much. That was really awesome. So I have I'm going to try to read your questions. I have it on Microsoft Word, and I've made you really small. So let's see where we can do that. So your book came out in 2021, and I know from the publishing biz. How long ago did you write the poems of this book in general? And how long did it take you to go from pen or laptop to book?
So I started writing, like I said, right after Trump was elected. So that was in 2016. And I kept working on it. And around 2017, mid 2017, I realized that I was moving towards enough for a book. I didn't start sending it out, I don't think, until 2018, I want to say, or 2019. And it was rejected soundly twice. And, those nice rejection letters, like I came really close, or a few wanted to publish it. And the advantage of being at a university, I'm sure you could do this at a library or anywhere with a lot of space. I took the book apart and, just printed everything out and laid it out on tables, these long rows of tables, kind of like a classroom, almost like a lab room, and switched everything around. Peculiar Heritage, I think, is the most difficult poem in there because of the subject matter. And for some reason, I had it toward the end, and I thought, I was trying to bury it because it's so difficult. And I thought that should be first. And there's no reason I should bury what I like. So.
Now, what I should have opened with was congratulations on the book.
Oh, thank you.
Is this the first reading for it?
This is the first, I think, solo reading, yes, that I have.
Oh, thank you for that. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So I was reading what the synopsis or what the publisher put about it, and the synopsis starts with, "The shock of American violence shouldn't be a shock at all." Now, there's two ways to look at it. So do you feel it's that way because of our history, past and present, or is it not a shock at all because we've just become so damn desensitized toward it?
Well, when I helped or thought about when I was marketing a book to publishers, definitely the former, but now that you said it, it's also the synthesizing of it. For instance, the January 6th insurrection, I'm just going to call it insurrection, that happened should have pissed all Americans off. It should have, people should be imprisoned, including our former president. But for some reason, some people are trying to convince us that it was just like a visitor's thing. They were just tourists, or I don't understand how that is happening. And also, we're coming on the 20th anniversary of 9/11, which was a horrible thing. It was a violence put upon us, but we have hundreds of thousands of people who died in this country within the last year. And that, for some reason, is not as serious or grave to those who fight against common sense measures to try to stop these deaths or sicknesses of so many people.
It also mentions how we reject culture and how we reject inclusion. And has that changed much, or do you have hope for change since he is no longer in office?
I don't think it's changed much, no.
I don't either. Do you think it's heading in that direction, or is it just too late?
I think there's still a rejection of a lot of culture. And another thing that has been bothering me is just like this further whitewashing of American history, like this rejection of the 1619 Project, for instance, or this worry of critical race theory, which a lot of people can't define. And, I have my PhD. I've never studied CRT. My wife, and I don't think most of us have. I'm not a theorist, and I don't want to be. I have my ideas about theorists. So I think this like shooing of things um, that are diverse or that are real is it's not a change in the right direction. And you know, I have my complaints with the other side too. The other side, I don't like saying that, but I fear that we are going to make literature so lily white or so clean, not just white, but just so clean and separated that it's not going to be fun or difficult anymore to explore. And I'm saying that as a professor.
Now, currently, after your book came out or while you were writing it, did you consider yourself a political poet before that? Or is it just something that was so in your face during the writing of it in the last 5 years that that's what kind of came out of you?
Well, before that, I wrote Rubbing Elbows, and there were some political things in there, no doubt. Like, for instance, one of the last poems in that book was about what happened in Orlando with the shooting at the gay nightclub, one of the last nightclubs, which really affected me. I was with friends at the time that happened at a makeshift writing retreat, and a lot of us were queer there, or are queer. We haven't changed. So it really, you know, it really affected us, what happened. And, you know, that was soon after Trump was elected, I believe. So there was politics there, but a lot of those poems are fun. You know, it's playing with music, it's playing with sound. And when Trump was elected, I felt stifled in writing because I thought what I was doing did not matter. It felt really childish. And I think about what King said, when we were children, we played with childish things, is now to put away. And I kind of felt that then, and I'm moving out of that. There's a poem I wrote in here that my husband doesn't like because he's like, it's not long enough. But
Everyone's a critic.
yeah, I like his honesty. Uh,
It helps.
it's called Real Estate Mogul. I will destroy everything you created and build instead something paler, freckled, speckled, gold, gilded. Tell the people as good as my name. See the egress. So, you know, there's still some fun with that, looking at Trump as, you know, this barker or something like that. And he's just, you know, wasn't even a good real estate mogul, but he's able to make people see shit that he thinks they should see. And if anyone questions them, he shows them out. And my husband was like, it should go further, but he was a philosophy major. Of course, he thinks it should be longer.
Well, in Peculiar Heritage, you also mix in love poems and nature poems. And when you're writing a series of poems, do you switch back and forth with those poems to the more heavier social topics, or do you everything have to happen straight through all at once? Like you have to write for you, like the heavier topics all in a row.
For a while, it was heavier topics all in a row, and then I think things have changed. But some of these poems I've forgotten are really old, and some were written recently, like within the last, well, a year before it was published or so, or earlier. But when I first started putting the book together, I thought, oh, this is dismal, and as a Black writer, I didn't want to, like, I want to have neo-slavery stuff in it, but you know, it's our heritage. So I want to show what can come of that. And I wanted to end on a hopeful note that it's not all this, it's also love and nature and everything else, or growing old and being happy, growing old with people that you love. I had a friend in grad school who is this white gentleman, a great writer, and he's writing this novel, and it was set in a ghetto with Black people, and it was like this white savior novel, and I was really bothered by it, and I was wondering, why am I so bothered? It's not fair. I write about white people, he should be able to write about Black people. And then I realized it's bothering me mostly because these Black people are miserable all the time. They're constantly fucking crying, constantly like getting shot or in jail, and it's just like, that's not Black people, that's not people. And the analogy I gave him in class to try to tell him that it needed to be like to balance this out. I don't know what happened to that novel that he wrote. I don't know where he is now. He's a very Christian guy.
I mean, I
Oh,
get it. I mean,
yeah.
as a writer, I always have to now, and I never did when I started writing, consider everybody else who is not me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk
So,
about your editing for a little bit with Prairie Schooner. And this is a question from Kurt Lovelace. As a book, he's a book publisher considering starting a literary journal. What is the process like for vetting at the Prairie Schooner? Specifically, how many layers or hurdles were there for work to make it into the journal?
I think it goes through 2 or 3 readings before it goes to the managing editor. So 2 or 3 people will say either yes, no, or maybe. And that's the case at a lot of journals. Um, Big journals like Prairie Schooner, I consider a big journal, is one of the oldest ones in America. Before it gets to the managing editor, and the people who vet the stories first um, will offer some argument for their, like if they really want it published. One of the spills I got when I was a grad student at Nebraska was that we've published stories that we don't like because first readers or second readers really loved it and made a good fight for it. So I like that idea, and I've worked on magazines since then, including right now with Prairie Schooner, but also Porcupine Literary. Um, I don't want one person to be the be all end all because you have different tastes, and if someone can make a good argument for something, I'm all for it. I like that idea.
Now, this week, the poetry world was kind of stirred by Daniel Rowe's discussion. Are you aware of this one? She
Yeah.
lost her job as a poetry editor because of a tweet. And basically, just to paraphrase, her tweet said, the only people that care about poems and poets are other poets. This isn't a great social consciousness going on that we're changing the world. Well, first of all, do you think she should have gotten fired for a tweet like that? And second of all, what's your opinion on that tweet?
I don't. I love Barron Magazine. I'm gonna say that first. Um, it's a volunteer position. I don't necessarily think that she should have been let go, but from what I could see, maybe they had a discussion. And I follow Danielle on Twitter too, and I like her. I think everybody is entitled to how they feel about it. How I think about I kind of I guess subtweeted about it because I didn't want to say anything against her. I felt like she was being piled on and kind of unjust. We should be able to say what we want to about poetry, and it's fine. And I always play things like this with my husband. I tell him everything because he's not in this world, and he's like, "Well, she says she's a Buddhist. I wonder if it's like just a religious thing that." And I think differently. Sometimes I think that writing, especially literary writing, is very masturbatory. We're just doing it for each other. As incestuous, it's masturbatory. But when things happen, like when George Floyd was killed, or when Donald Trump was elected, or when there's something big that happens, people do turn to poetry. For instance, Langston Hughes gets very popular poems at that time, or Emily Dickinson's Hope is a Thing with Feathers is very popular during the pandemic that we have going on now. So I think that poetry can speak to us, and I think it can work outside of us. And I know when people go through things, I have a friend who's going through a divorce right now. She's a math person. That's her world. She doesn't write poetry, but the thing that she did do while she was going through this to think about this is write poems. And I'm going to agree with Stephanie, is there all poetry is politic. That, that question is offensive and racist, but all poetry is, it can, I think all writing can be political. I think we can interpret it in many different ways there, or political. I can go back to the old feminist cry that the personal is political. Yeah, she's a math person. She's a math PhD. and she turned to poetry. So I think that it is something that when we're in it and we're so close to it, we don't see the importance of it.
Now, you also, besides writing about social issues and social commentary, you're a music lover, and your previous chapbook, Rubbing Elbows, draws in some pretty iconic musicians. So did you always love music? And as a child, what was your first recollection of like it grabbing you?
Music, I used to I don't know, I've always loved music. My dad is a music lover, and my parents like R&B and funk. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, but my dad listened to everything. Like if I hear a Beatles song, especially like Ticket to Ride, I hear my dad singing it. And so he liked everything. He liked Jimi Hendrix. And I picked on that love of music from him a little bit, but also, music is just, I'm sorry, my cat's right there. It speaks to us. And so when I was a very little kid, I went to the magnet school, and these kids used to carry these cases around, and I was always intrigued because they get pulled out of classes, like this is 5-year-old kindergarten. And then one day they pulled out their instruments and played. I'm like, fuck yeah, I want to do that. So I played violin for 2 years, and then I was talked into play viola, and I played through high school and stopped. And when I got to Fitchburg, I was talked into playing it again. So I'm in the orchestra again, which is fun. I like all kinds of music. I like rap. I like jazz and rock. As you know, we were talking about punk and post-punk. Love post-punk. Not too crazy about country, which is unfortunate because it's an American form of music. Not too crazy about screamo or the things that I can't really understand.
Now, when you were writing about these iconic musicians, who did you find was the easiest one to conjure up in a poem, and who was the most difficult? And did you also research about some of their lives, or did you grab it just based on your feelings about them?
Well, some of their lives I knew. Like when I was in college, I was a music minor for a little while, and I took this class called Music, History, and Lit. So I knew about Chopin and George Sand's relationship, and how Chopin just kind of lived this romantic life. He's like the punk rock of romantics. I'm just going to do it to the extreme, and basically killed himself because he wanted to live in this castle because it was beautiful, but castles are cold. So who's the hardest to write about? Well, I still cannot tell you any Taylor Swift songs, so I don't know who she is. I know about her because she's Taylor Swift, so it was kind of fun writing that poem because I just kind of imagined all these things about her. And this is before we knew anything political about her. I'm going to go back to what Stephanie said, that everything is political. A lot of white supremacists tried to adopt Taylor Swift because she didn't appear, she did not try to be political, but then she came back up as saying that she was left and she was anti-Trump. So I thought that was interesting.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for your appearance. That was really, really awesome. And you should definitely check out, everyone should check out your new book. Is there a particular bookstore that people should order from it, or?
I suggest Mason Jar, like right at the press, or bookshop.org. I think they're on back order now, which I guess is a good thing. But bookshop.org is another one.
All right, that's great, and thank you for coming on and chatting with me. And good luck with the book. And it sounds, what we've heard, it was a wonderful reading.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.